Joining me now is the Minister of Canadian Heritage, Pablo Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Martha, it's a pleasure. Thank you for
there are
having
a lot of questions, a lot of building block questions to understand how this legislation and how this new system will work. Who among Canada's media outlets, media organizations, would be eligible to negotiate these compensation agreements with the web giants?
First, it's important to say that an independent, professional, neutral, non-partisan journalism is fundamental in our country. And we're losing that. 450 outlets closed their door in the last 15 years. So we're not getting a stronger democracy, we're getting weaker, a weaker democracy. So we have to protect and reinforce strong journalism in our country. So the media that will be included are those that already benefit from, for example, the tax credit. That means those who have at least 2 journalists that cover Canadian news, general news, not specific, like I'm not talking about cars. So there's a set of criteria there. Then we're going to add the broadcasting news sector. Why? Because news is news. So news, be it on television, on radio, or on paper, it's all the same, right? It's written, it's prepared for delivery to the Canadian people.
Okay.
So we're also going to include the broadcasting people.
All right, the flip side of it, how are you going to get the web giants to enter into negotiations, something they have not done traditionally until now or until recently? How are you going to get them into negotiations to pay media outlets?
Well, because they have to, because if they don't, then they will go to final arbitration, and nobody wants to go to final arbitration. Not the tech giants and not the media outlets, because you never know what's going to happen at the end. So the way it works is that there are criteria that are set, they're independent, and that those criteria will determine which platform is included in this, which platform is covered by the bill. Those platforms will have to negotiate with media outlets to be excluded from the bill, to be excluded from being forced to go to final arbitration. But for them to achieve that, they need to have agreements not only with big players. It's fine if they have with big players, sure, we want that, but also with small players, with independent, regional, and local news, ethnic media, indigenous. If they have that kind of deals with the ecosystem, then they will be excluded from the law and from final arbitration.
Okay, but I mean, I'm just a quick question. It's a nuts and bolts question. But if I'm running a small newspaper in Lethbridge or in Cranbrook, or if, as you say, I'm running a small indigenous newspaper, and it comes to my attention that the media outlets, the web giants are using my content, I have to go through a process. Do I have the money? Do I have the resources to negotiate with a big multinational corporation like Facebook?
Well, what we're adding, and this is extremely important, Martin, is that we're adding collective bargaining. And this, because I had many meetings with big players and small players and from everywhere, they're super happy about this. This allows organizations to get together and negotiate as a group with the web giants, and that will give them a much better position. Okay,
now you mentioned the next step, and that is if the web giant is found to be, has not reached an agreement, a negotiated agreement on a collective basis with these entities, they then are ordered by your legislation to enter into binding or final offer arbitration. Who will oversee that arbitration?
A group of independent arbiters. It's not the CRTC. So during the process, both sides will suggest names of arbitrators, and the CRTC will have a bank of those people. And if it's impossible for the two sides to get to an agreement, then at the end of the process, 3 arbitrators among the groups, chosen by both, will be designated to do the final arbitration.
Now this is, but it's overseen by the CRTC, because some critics have said that one organization they don't necessarily want to see doing it is the CRTC, because it's criticized for having huge delays already and being very bureaucratic. How do you respond to that, those concerns?
Well, they're involved, but they're not involved that much, and not to the end of the process. Again, the final arbitrators are not the CRTC; they're independent people accepted by both sides. But what the CRTC will do is definitely monitor and produce a report with the help of an independent auditor at the end of the year. So that will tell us which major organizations are benefiting from this.
Okay, now you mentioned many times that this is based on, or it's inspired by the Australian model. We haven't heard any official comment from Facebook or Google, who represent 80% of the industry or the advertising revenues. They say they're studying this with interest. They're looking at your proposal. But in Australia, we saw pushback from both of those organizations to a point where Facebook even threatened to not operate in Australia. Are you concerned about possible pushback by the web giants?
Not based on the type of conversations I had with Google and Facebook. They were very open, frank, honest conversations. They agree that there could be some regulations. Now, are they going to agree with everything that's on the bill? Maybe, maybe not. But we'll keep having those conversations. And as they know, my door is always open.
Okay, and the other bigger question is, are you concerned about trade retaliation? The U.S. Department of Commerce has been very protective of these big web corporations that have most of their operations, or a lot of their operations, in the U.S. Are you anticipating or concerned that you could see an open U.S. trade challenge to this Canadian legislation, saying that it is impeding trade?
Well, Martin, we've had all along the process, as we were drafting the bill, we had discussions with the Americans about this, and they were very positive. And actually, even in the United States, they're starting to consider this because they see those big tech giants as monopolies, and there's support from both sides, Republican and Democrat, to do something. We'll see what they do. Okay,
last little question. If I am a media outlet, and if I'm maybe waiting for this collective that's negotiating my due rewards, my just payment, how long does this negotiating process, once the bill is in effect, how long could this whole process take? 6 months, a year, what?
Well, once the bill gets well set, we expect negotiations to take about 6 months, and then after that, there's a couple of months for the review of the agreements that are signed.
Okay, a lot of businesses could still go out of business by then.
That's why we have to act quickly, and that's why the bill is tabled today.
Okay, well, we'll watch it with great interest as it goes through the legislative process. Thanks for speaking with us tonight.
Thank you very much, Mark. Talk soon.